How about now? Anybody can hear me now? All right. Testing one, two, three. All right. There we go. We have audio. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. I had to cancel the stream and start again. It somehow defaulted to a software that I have for my wireless mics. And it wouldn't pick up the Blue Nessie here. So anyway, yeah. So 1,000 subscriber stream, right? I don't stream hardly ever. I find it, it's something I want to work on doing a little bit more, but I've just really not connected all that well with streaming because it's hard to uh really, I don't know, I'm not used to a lot of you like Smash streams all the time does a great job engaging with the audience. I have a hard time with all the technology. I have really bad internet bandwidth, so I try to hook up OBS and game streaming, and I try to do video calls on stream and stuff for the podcast, and it just never works out very well technologically speaking. But I'm glad you guys are here. So I've been getting a lot of mileage off of Steam Deck content lately, and I figured we would chat and maybe answer some questions if anybody comes in here that has any questions about the Steam Deck. But I've been having quite the adventure with the Steam Deck. When this thing was announced, uh, Valve gave us the impression that this was going to be a console like experience for your PC games. And I think that's what they're aiming for, but that is not what we have at this particular time. Uh, Smash is saying, streaming comes with time. Don't be hard on yourself. Well, I don't know. I want to put a good product out there, but sometimes when it comes to something like a milestone stream or something, you just want to come in and hang out with your friends. I'm not trying to produce an episode here or whatever. So, I'm glad you guys are here. But yeah, the Steam Deck, man, the Steam Deck. This is a serious piece of kit right here. It's really an amazing piece of technology. It's fantastic. It's powerful. It's sleek. Physically speaking, it's ergonomic and well designed. Despite the weird looking layout, it's actually very comfortable to play. But everything inside. Don't try to do two streams at the same time. You don't ever want to cross them by accident, Sean says. So, yeah, everything outside of actually playing the games that Steam wants you to play on this thing actually pretty janky at the moment. There's a lot of problems that they really didn't necessarily, I don't know, I wasn't prepared for it. I'm not much of a PC gamer. I know about having tweak games in Steam to fit and work with your specific computer. That's fine whether you raise or lower some graphics settings or something, but I was quite surprised at how janky the Steam OS actually is, having some really strange issues. Why am I out of focus here? Having some really strange issues just in the interface. Like you go to, let's say, the Steam store and try to browse for new games that you want to buy, and you'll be scrolling, your typical what you would expect, scrolling with the left thumbstick, and the menu is going up and up, and all of a sudden it just flips, and all of a sudden the menu is going in the other direction. You're still clicking down on the thumbstick, and you're like, what the hell? All of a sudden it's just like glitched and it's going in the other direction, like almost the X axis was reversed or whatever. Weird stuff like that they need to iron out, and I'm sure a lot of this stuff is going to be um ironed out in a lot of future updates. Jacob says afternoon collection. Are we talking about the Disney afternoon collection? I have that installed on my deck right now, and unfortunately, it does not work. At least without some kind of heavy modification I haven't got around to. We'll talk about getting some games to work, because what is fantastic about the deck is that a lot of stuff really does work. It really does work pretty well. Steam's list of verified titles is growing by the day. It's actually, I just put a video up yesterday going over the publisher sale for the Steam Deck, or for Steam rather, and a ton of big AAA games are verified now that were not verified just a month ago. Like they're really hammering on getting games verified in that list, and they're doing a fantastic job. Like as far as actually playing the games that they recommend you play, this thing is fantastic. I've been playing Final Fantasy 13, which is something I never thought I'd be able to play in handheld. It looks absolutely gorgeous. That game is not verified, but it is listed as playable. Unfortunately, 13.2 seems to have some problems, and it's listed as unknown right now, but not unplayable. I've seen some videos online of people playing 13.2, and it works. And you would expect if 13 works, that Final Fantasy 13.2 should work because they're based on the same architecture, as far as I know. But 13.2 definitely has some frame rate drops and things like that, but it is playable. All right, Smash, you got to run. Thanks so much for dropping by. Um, but yeah, Steam Deck. So battery life, a lot of people are concerned about battery life with this thing, and I can tell you it is a challenge. I mean, the battery under light use lasts 3 or 4 hours, sort of thing, if you're just messing around in the menus and maybe launching, a Metroidvania or something like that that's not too demanding. But I notice if I play Cyberpunk, for example, I'm lucky to get an hour and a half of battery. Cyberpunk looks fantastic on this thing. If you haven't played Cyberpunk yet, I'm actually working on a comparison right now between the PS4 version, which I have. I bought the PS4 version and got the free upgrade to the PS5, which is the only way to actually play the PS5 version right now because there's no physical version. Uh, Apple guy says, "Did you get the new update with the 40 frames per second lock?" No. That is on the like the beta channel of updates, and I'm on the stable channel. I don't want to mess around too much with that stuff. Usually the stable channel is a few weeks or a couple of months or a few weeks or a month behind the beta channel. I'm pretty interested in the 40 frames per second thing because I think and we should actually go back and talk about that a little bit for those that don't know about 40 frames per second, because that sounds uh, kind of weird under normal circumstances. If you were on a console or a PC, you may have a screen that's 60 frames a second, or maybe it's 120 hertz refresh rate or 60 hertz refresh rate or whatever, but 40 isn't easily divisible into that. So you need to have a screen that either has a variable refresh rate so that it can accommodate 40 frames a second, or in the case of the Steam Deck, they've actually detuned the software for the screen to allow the screen itself to be brought down to a 40 hertz refresh rate, because what you want is for your frames per second to be divisible into the refresh rate of your screen. So either 30 or 60 works on a 60 hertz screen, because then you're either seeing every frame once or every frame twice for 30 frames per second. 40 frames per second would be nice for games where you can't locked 60, but maybe it can do a little bit better than 30 as far as battery life goes, as far as performance and how the smoothness works and that sort of thing. So if you could detune the screen on the Steam Deck and lock it to 40 hertz, then you could boost up from that 30 frames to 40 frames in a lot of games and get a really smooth experience that is better on battery life than 60 frames or something that's floating around 50 or 55 frames or something. If you lock that down to 40, you're going to get better performance than 30 frames per second and better battery life than 60 frames per second. So for the Steam Deck, this is something that is quite interesting. I haven't checked it out yet, but I will check it out as soon as that comes to the stable thread of updates. So let me see here. Supposed to help a ton with battery life. Yeah, absolutely. Like, being able to reduce from 60 or 50 to 40 and lock it in at that is going to give you a smoother gameplay experience. Because when the frame rate doesn't match the refresh rate, that's how you end up getting what looks like frame drops a lot of the time, is because some frames are getting shown twice and some frames are getting shown once, and it kind of throws off the timing there. So it just looks weird and kind of stuttery when the frame rate is not easily divisible excuse me, by your refresh rate. Jacob says, sounds like similar to things that happen in the eShop with a Switch. What do you mean there with like the controls and stuff? Excuse me, I got something in my throat. Let's not lie. I smoke too much and got a cough. So yeah, the Switch eShop, people used to complain, well, they still do complain about the Switch eShop a lot, that it's, hard to navigate. It's hard to find really good stuff because it's always buried by games that are trying to promote themselves for $1 or $2 to get to the top of the list and get to that recommended page and that sort of thing. And it has been a complaint of mine for a long time that navigating the eShop is not great. But let me tell you, the Steam page is no great wonder either. When you want to search under certain criteria, you just can't. There is no way to search by publisher, for example, which is something that you, I believe, can do in the eShop. But yeah, I was trying to make this video yesterday and trying to get around to looking at the publisher sales. Like Steam has a publisher sale on right now, and like Capcom has its Golden Week, and Square Enix is doing this Golden Week sale or whatever, and you can't find the sales unless you just happen to trip on basically an ad when you go to a related game. Like you can't just search Square Enix and see everything that they have, which is kind of annoying because what you see on the front page of the Steam store is what they want you to see. It's what somebody's paid somebody to get on the front page or something, and that's constantly changing and rotating. Every time you log in, you see something different. But yeah, Jacob's saying, yeah, scrolling and it glitches, it's slow, and then you scroll the wrong way. I have seen that happen. And yeah, these Switch menu for the eShop, like I thought maybe it was my internet or something. But yeah, scrolling in the eShop, especially when you're on that like great deals page and there's like 1,300 listings or something, it's really slow. I've never seen it go the wrong way for me, Jacob, but it definitely slow loading in. You click, 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 wait, click, 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 wait. Really annoying. I would say on the Steam Deck, the store is pretty snappy. You get a lot more loading in on the Steam Deck than you would on the Switch menus, but it's not the greatest to navigate. It's not the greatest to search the categories. All the categories, all the different search mechanisms seem to be trying to sell you something, which I guess that's the job of a store, but they're presenting specific stuff to you that they want you to see rather than having it organized like alphabetically or organized by publisher or organized by genre, which you can kind of search through that, but it's still the first results you see are always, I get the impression that it's what they want you to see, not just a list, which would be kind of nice. Sean from the Electronic Emotions program is saying, at least with the eShop, you can create a wish list. You've never seen a way to do that on PlayStation systems. You can do that on Steam too. Yeah, I have a wish list on Steam. I have a wish list on Switch. But Sean, there's definitely a wish list on PlayStation. Do you have the PlayStation app on your phone? Because I interact with my wish list all the time on my PlayStation app on my phone. It's the PlayStation app on my phone, and I can go to store. Okay, quickly, where did it go to? I know it's in here somewhere. Make a liar out of me now for sure. But yeah, there is a wish list. I have a wish list. It's in here somewhere. I won't bother to do this on stream, but there is a wish list function somewhere within PlayStation because I have several dozen games in it. Are you talking about the wish list on Steam? Now that is one thing with Steam, and PlayStation does it too. Actually, Nintendo does not notify you when things go on sale. At least not that I know of. Um, Not even on the console. I have to go look at my wish list and see if there's something on sale once in a while. But with Steam, every time something in my wish list goes on sale, I get an email that notifies me that I have something in my wish list that's on sale, and I go look, and like it's pretty cool because now I just put things in my wish list because stuff goes on sale on Steam all the time, and so it's kind of cool to just stick something in your wish list, and then you get that notification, you get that little rush of endorphins or whatever, as I'm waiting to buy Final Fantasy 13 2 and Lightning Returns, and I get a notification, and there's a Square Enix sale, and they're on sale for a really good price, and I'm like, yes, now's the time, right? So I'm actually going to pick those up here pretty soon. They're on sale until I believe the 9th or the 11th, one or the other. But the Steam is good in a lot of ways, but on the deck, it's kind of frustrating to try and search and find things that you're looking for if you don't know the name of the game exactly. But the wish list is very useful. Um, I just purchased. So, what am I playing on the deck right now? Let's pop this thing on. I've just purchased a couple of games yesterday. I purchased a bunch of games before then. I'm working on a video idea. I've got some of the research done, and let's just go home here. All right, so I'm working on this video idea where I want to talk about GameCube games that can be played on the Steam Deck without emulation, without modifying your deck, without emulators. We all know you can emulate anything from the GameCube on here through the Dolphin emulator. No problems, easy peasy, that's fine. But what games can you do within Steam? What games are on Steam that came from the GameCube or that were also on the GameCube at some point? And that's something I wanted to look into. So I found 8 or 9 games from the GameCube that are on Steam, and I've been testing them out. So, I will eventually get to the point where I've tested them enough to actually have an opinion on all of them. But I downloaded Tales of Symphonia, Bandai Tales of game, one of the most well-known Tales of games. It plays great on Steam. It's verified. The graphics look really nice. It runs nice and snappy. What else did I pick up? Ikaruga. I was actually blown away by how good this looks. It must be a remaster or something. I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago about this because I think the version of Ikaruga that I have looked way better than it ever did on the Dreamcast or the GameCube. Um, Jacob says Steam Deck can do so much emulation. Emulation, yeah, I mean, emulation is easy peasy on the Steam Deck if you're into that sort of thing. I do have quite a few ROMs to test and play at emulation with, but right now, my first 6 months or so with the deck, I want to spend this time getting to know uh, the Steam Deck that Valve intended me to get to know. So I want to work within the ecosystem that Valve is giving me. I want to use Steam OS. I want to buy Steam games. I want to make video content about the things that you can do on and in the Steam ecosystem. So, I'm not really messing around with emulation too much. I know Apple guy here is probably going to help me at some point in the background. In terms of advice on which emulators to set up. I know there's something called Emu Deck, which is basically a front end. I gather that kind of pulls a bunch of different emulators together and gives you like an ecosystem to work in that's super easy. Nice visually appealing lists of all your games and all that kind of stuff. So I will probably install that at some point in the next couple of months. But I actually installed RetroArch, which I mean that's kind of like the McDonald's of emulators. It kind of runs a whole lot of the older systems and stuff. I installed RetroArch on the desktop, and we should talk about the desktop mode because the desktop mode on this thing is jank. Like, it is really not good. The input, the controller inputs that come with the Steam Deck in terms of your face buttons and your analog triggers and analog sticks and things like that are not optimized to run in the OS that they give you. So the input controls are terrible unless you hook up a keyboard and mouse. I did go out and buy an extra wireless keyboard with a touchpad just so that I could, when I dock this thing. But that's the other thing. Steam did not provide us with an official dock at launch. It's going to come sometime this summer, and it's going to be an additional $100 or so US. But I went and picked up a USB hub docking station that has HDMI and an Ethernet and a bunch of USB 3s and things like that. So, in order for me to hook this up to a TV and hook this up to a keyboard and mouse, I have to take this out to the studio where I've got the dock and, hook it up, leave the deck on the table, and go sit down with the keyboard and mouse somewhere in front of the TV. And in that, like, doing it that way, the OS is all right, but just trying to interact with it on the Steam Deck screen with these little mouse pads and stuff like that, like, it's less than ideal. It's really pretty janky. Apple Guy says, can't wait for dual screen support. That is going to be fantastic. If we get dual screen support, we would be able to properly emulate things like Wii U, for example. And I'm really excited to do that because I got to tell you, I own a Wii U, but my daughter's got it and it's in storage in Edmonton right now, along with all my games that I still have that I sent to her. I think Kaz actually has my copy of Xenoblade Chronicles X, but I really want to play X again before I die. And if I could just emulate that on the deck with dual screen support, that would be fantastic because I really don't want to monkey around with, you know, everything I got to go through to get my Wii U at this point from the storage in Edmonton and get it back here and whatever. If I could just play it on this little baby here, docked up to my TV, that would be fantastic. Sean saying you really thought those little mouse touch pads would have worked well. I thought they'd work well too, and they do work well, and they have like interesting haptics and stuff like that that are pretty cool. Um, the touchpads, the problem with the touchpads is the Steam OS is fine, but you don't need the touchpads in the Steam OS at all. Certain games that rely on keyboard and mouse make use of the touchpads, and they work really good in those games in that context. However, when you're on the Linux desktop, everything is itty bitty because the resolution, whatever the resolution settings are, the Linux distro that they put on this thing is not optimized for a small screen at all. You can barely see what you're doing. Even like, big icons, the big menus, and everything. You would think you could just interact with them with the touch screen because the touch screen is yet another input method, but it's janky. And the touch screen is even janky in the Steam OS, where if you bring up the on-screen keyboard, like let's say I go and buy a Steam gift card, a Steam wallet card, which I do frequently, just because it's easier to deal with than getting money in the bank sometimes. You got to call up the on-screen keyboard in order to type in that code, and the keyboard is janky. Like touchscreen wise, like sure you can navigate around the keyboard with the thumbsticks and press A to select the key, but that's slow. Like you want to use that touch screen. You want to just boop 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 boop, right? And it's janky. Like you click it and nothing happens, and you click it again, and then the second or third time you click it, the letter comes up on screen. And if if you're typing quick, sometimes it stays typing, then sometimes it just randomly misses a letter, and then you got to backspace 2 or 3 letters because that L didn't register for some reason. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is janky that they need to address in future updates. I see on the Steam Deck community so many people. Like there's a group on Facebook that I'm in, the Steam Deck community, it's called, and I think it has about 50,000 people in the group, and it's a very active group. But like 50% of the posts are people talking about buying from scalpers and asking if it's worth buying from scalpers, or maybe they're from a different country where the Steam Deck is not available for pre-order right now and they're trying to buy it off of eBay or something, and they're asking advice on whether it's worth paying double for one of these things, paying $1,200 US or something. And I would absolutely say at this point, if you have to pay that kind of money, don't. Just don't. It is not ready. The Steam Deck is a beta product at this point. It is fantastic. I'm not knocking it. It's a great little device and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But I would absolutely say if you can't get this thing for manufacturer's suggested retail price, just wait, because in 6 months, this thing is going to be a lot more polished, a lot more ready to go. You're going to have a much bigger library of games available to you. If anything, I would spend your money right now on looking up Steam Deck verified games and waiting for sales and building up your Steam library with whatever money is burning a hole in your pocket right now, because there's no rush to get this thing. Like, there are other ways to play these games in the meantime for most people. A lot of the games that I have, going back to that GameCube, I can play a lot of these games on the GameCube. I'm just making an interesting video about what GameCube games will run. But I picked up, what did I say I picked up? Tales of Symphonia, Ikaruga, Tomb Raider Legend, Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, Killer 7. All these games are on here, and most of them run pretty good. I ran into some problems with Beyond Good and Evil, and this is an Ubisoft game. I'm really kind of disappointed in the game, actually, because it runs great. It starts up, it plays, the controls are good, like the default controls are good. The game is in French. The entire game is in French, and there are language settings, and they don't work. You can't change the language. Um, this is on Ubisoft, I think, because this is not just a Steam Deck problem. And again, when you're dealing with the Steam Deck, it's not a console. You're not just popping in a cartridge and it plays perfectly the way God intended. You have to mess around with stuff. You have to do your research. You have to do your legwork. You're going to have to go out and read some Reddit threads or some forums. Uh, it's okay because I'm Canadian. I'm a Canadian that doesn't really speak French. I can read the French on the back of a shampoo bottle just fine, to know whether it's going to kill me or not. I can understand enough French functionally to read the French directions on the back of a box of pancake syrup or something, or pancake mix or whatever. But I don't speak French, and I don't really understand it when it's being spoken to me. I can read it being spoken to me. I can read it. Uh, but yeah, it's in French, and you got to go out and find the solutions to these problems, which I did on a Reddit thread. And apparently, this is some kind of a registry issue. The developer put the file structure in the wrong way, and somebody with honestly more skill than me needs to dive into the registry on the desktop version on Linux and rearrange some folders and paste in some code into a specific place in order to switch it over to English. And that's kind of beyond my pay grade right now. I've talked to my computer buddy, and even he's a little bit iffy because I mean he's stronger in Linux than I am, but sounds kind of complicated. So I don't know if I'm going to do that for a $10 game or whether I'm just going to write off Beyond Good and Evil as a waste of $10. And you don't necessarily know these things before you buy and try the game. It's kind of the Wild West right now. So, if Steam has verified a game and it has that green check mark, you can trust. And I've tested dozens of these games now. And if Steam gives that game a green check mark, you are good to go. That game will be smooth as butter. You can trust that. You can count on that. If it says playable with the yellow question mark, it's probably pretty darn good, but it's just got some input output issues that may require button remapping or use of the touch screen or something of that nature. But yeah, sorry, what were we looking at? Sean says, I think that will be a hurdle for Steam. No exclusives. If the Switch had no exclusives, it would long be dead. know what I feel about exclusives, to be honest. For me personally, I don't know. Like, I don't really buy consoles based on exclusives, and I rarely play the exclusives that are presented to me, but maybe I'm a weirdo. Um, most of, I'm far more likely on my PS5 or PS4 library, whatever, I'm far more likely to play something like the Mass Effect trilogy than I am to play God of War or Spider-Man or Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever. Like, exclusives don't really mean that much to me. I mean, I've had so many different consoles in my life, and I just kind of play whatever I feel like playing on whatever console I have. But 9 times out of 10, um I end up attracted to usually third-party games more than first-party games from Microsoft or Sony. Nintendo is an exception. Um, I think the Switch, honestly, for me, I play a lot of indie games on my Switch, and a lot of like what I really love about the Switch, and that's kind of the same with Steam, is the ability to pick up these $5 and $10 games when they're on sale and experiment with something that isn't costing me an arm and a leg. So I really like that with the Switch, and I'm going to really like that with the Steam Deck as well. Just picking up these games when they're on sale. I've got my eyes on Final Fantasy X and X-2, which I have been meaning to pick up on the Switch for a while. But on the Switch, you only get the first game on the physical cartridge, and the second game is download only. And that's stupid. There's not much point in buying the physical game if only one of the two games is there. So if I'm going to buy it digitally anyway, I would rather buy it on the Steam Deck because I'm going to get better performance and a better looking, better feeling experience. The Steam Deck is ergonomically more comfortable to play than the Switch. You don't have as much of a hand cramp issue with the Joy Cons and stuff. Generally, with my Switch, I have to install some kind of a grip just to spread my hands out a little bit on the Switch because I do find that the Joy Cons are super like hand crampy. Jacob says you found games on Switch for 18 cents, 4 cents. Yeah, the Switch is amazing for those sales. You got to understand though, when you find a game for 20 cents or something, that is somebody manipulating the eShop. And that really stinks, to be honest. They have to do that in order to get noticed because they're selling their game for nothing just so that it ranks in the algorithm and they start to show up near the top of the page. Apple Guy's saying not every PC game can play the games or not every PC can play the games as well as the deck. Yeah, not every PC, that's for sure. If you have it, like right now, I have a Lenovo Tiny Desktop running Windows 10 out in the studio. That's just kind of my YouTube machine and that sort of thing out in the studio. I do a little bit of light editing for one of my other channels that's just audio only editing on it, but it's not a very powerful computer. Um, I can run things like Age of Empires Definitive Edition on that, which has no graphics card whatsoever. It's just integrated graphics in one of these tiny desktops, right? Laptop architecture. But not every PC game can handle Cyberpunk. Not every PC can handle Cyberpunk. The great thing about the Steam Deck is that because of its form factor, because of its screen size and screen resolution, you can pump the performance way up because the resolution is actually pretty low. You don't notice that the resolution is low because it's a small screen, and that's kind of the way works. Like if you have a 720p TV and you're sitting right in front of it, you're going to see the pixels. But if you have a 4K TV and you're sitting right in front of it, it's going to look smooth. If you're farther away from that 720p TV, it's going to look fine. And that's the same with the small screen. Like when you've got a 7-inch screen that's about a foot away from your face, it still looks pretty good because it's so small. So you get the impression of a higher resolution than the physical pixels will actually dictate. Sean's talking to Apple Guy. People who can afford a deck generally have a PC that can handle any game the deck can. Maybe, Sean. I don't know if you could really make a generality like that. My impression in the Steam Deck community is that a lot of people are expecting the Steam Deck to be their lord and savior as far as like this do everything all in one, solve every problem in their technology landscape, be their desktop PC, be their school thing. They want to like take it to college and take their notes on it, and they want it docked all the time, and they want to run games in 4K, and they want to run VR off of it and all this kind of stuff, which it really can't do. People are expecting this thing to be a lot more than it really is, which is an underpowered PC that happens to be presented pretty well. It's about as powerful as a PS4. It has newer architecture, so it's a little bit faster than a PS4. The memory's super fast. The SSD is super fast, so it has a lot akin with a PS5 in terms of the hardware, but in terms of the raw performance, it's maybe PS4 Pro territory. Um, you're saying those are the people talking. Are they the ones buying? Well, one would assume that most of the people in the Steam Deck group are pre-ordered and ready to go, just waiting for theirs to ship. Some of these people are from other countries where they can't get one. But it does seem like a lot of people are expecting quite a lot out of the Steam Deck, and that's been frustrating to me because this is a gaming device. It is a handheld gaming device. Can it be docked? Sure. The Switch can be docked too. This thing, can it upscale the graphics and stuff like that? Well, it's not going to automatically upscale the graphics when it's docked like the Switch does, because it doesn't really have that built in to the ecosystem. Like the Switch is an ecosystem that all the games are built to work under. PC games, every game's different. It's the Wild West, right? So you have to tweak every single game for the specific setting that you're using it in. So you may find that something like Cyberpunk runs pretty good on the deck in handheld, but when you try to scale that up to even 1080p, the performance is going to be very, very different on your TV than you would think it would be in handheld. Whereas with the Switch, sometimes the performance can be better in handheld because it theoretically has access to a little more horsepower when it's docked. I don't know. But yeah, as I don't have a powerful PC. I have a PS5. I have a Mac, which is powerful, but it doesn't play games. Not very many of them anyway. A couple of RTS games and stuff I can play on the Mac, like Civilization and that sort of thing. But the selection of games available on Steam for the Mac ecosystem is pretty sparse. As I was saying, I do have a Windows computer out in the studio, but it's not real powerful either. I can play games like The Sims 4 and Civilization and Command and Conquer and games like that that are not too demanding for any modern hardware, but I couldn't run Cyberpunk on it. I do plan to continue comparing the PS5 version of Cyberpunk to the Steam version, and surprisingly, the end result user experience is very, very similar. The Steam Deck runs it fantastic, and the game itself is a lot better than I expected it was going to be. Uh, Based on the way it launched, Cyberpunk was supposed to be a complete mess. I didn't play it back in the day, so I didn't see any of the glitches on PS4 and that sort of thing. But on even before the big update that we got a month ago, it was supposedly running fairly well on PS5, but it seems to be pretty much flawless at this point. I haven't got that far into the game, but the experience has been pretty good. Sorry, I'm getting parched from talking so much. So I kind of miss playing with my Switch. Oh, you're a player too. How are you liking the comfort of the handheld so far? Look, man, this device is wonderful as far as the ergonomics go. You would think the button layout would be kind of weird just looking at it. I thought it was going to be kind of weird too, but it is extremely comfortable. Like it's a good hand position when you're lined up here. You've got the D-pad right there for 2D games and stuff. Your face buttons are right here. It's actually very comfortable. It's a little bit heavier than the Switch, but it has these built-in kind of grips in the back, which are very comfortable. It positions your fingers very well for the triggers and stuff. The screen is functionally a little bit bigger because it's by 10 aspect ratio, and that works for most games, but not all. Um, yeah, you're saying you thought the buttons being so near the edge would be off-putting, but it does work well. Yeah, I it does bother my OCD a little bit that the B button is literally like on the curve, like that just seems wrong, like feng shui wrong. Um, but it works. Like the buttons are good. I'm happy with the way the buttons feel. I'm happy with the way the triggers feel. I'm happy with the sticks. Like they feel like the sticks on an Xbox One controller or something. There's a lot more travel and a lot more throw to the sticks than you get on the little Joy-Con sticks. I noticed playing a twin stick shooter on the Switch is almost impossible, um because the Joy-Con sticks are just not precise enough, and there's not enough travel to really control properly in a twin stick shooter. But I've played some twin stick shooters on the Steam Deck and it feels much, much, much better. Sean's saying, note to self, wear a hoodie with a snake thing on it. Excuse me. uh, All right. So the sticks are a huge improvement over the Switch. Your player two says, and nice that they made a point of user replaceability. That is another thing that we haven't really talked about tonight, and that is the open architecture of the Steam Deck. It's fantastic that even though they recommend we don't take this thing apart, as far as warranty is concerned, they don't really want you opening it up, but they designed this thing like a PC to be opened up and fixed and upgraded. It is very easy. I've seen several people do teardowns to upgrade the SSDs and stuff, and I'm not that much of a technical guy, but I would be pretty confident swapping out my own SSD. It's literally a matter of removing about 8 screws, a heat shield, unplugging the battery, swapping out plug and play, swapping out the SSD, plug the battery back in, put the heat shield back on. Like, yeah, I can do it. Like anybody could do it. It's very well designed that way to be user upgradable. So I'm not sure why they don't. I guess legally they don't want you to be in there, or don't want to recommend that you be in there as far as warranty goes. But one thing I did not realize, for those of you who do plan on opening up your Steam Deck, take your SD card out first, because I've seen some stuff floating around online. The SD card mounts in the bottom here, in between the top and bottom where they separate. And if you forget to take your SD card out, you are going to snap your SD card in half when you pull the clips apart. So you really gotta watch for that. Your player two says, I don't know about modifying the inside just yet, but for the outside, those D brand skins are looking pretty tasty. I I'm looking to do some kind of a video on accessories at some point in the near future. I got to get myself on some of these websites and order a few different things and test them out. Um, I don't really trust myself to apply skins neatly. Um, some of those skins out there that people have got look fantastic. Like, I would probably like an aluminum, brushed aluminum sort of skin. I've seen that one done out there. But I'm kind of worried about messing it up because I don't really have the steadiest hand out there. So I don't know, maybe I'll get somebody else to do it, get my daughter to do it or something. She's artsy fartsy. But yeah, some of those skins look really cool. And there's a lot of other things that you can do with it too. There's the clear acrylic cases and screen protectors and things like that. So I'm definitely looking down that path. But I'm generally not the type of person to modify things that much. But a skin would be definitely cool. What do we got? We're missing some here. Apple guy, you got the cheapest one on order and already got your SSD. You the cheapest Steam Deck. When did you pre-order? Just recently, because or did you like order one on eBay? How did you order it, Apple guy? The installation looks intimidating. Yeah. Installation looks intimidating since you need a hair dryer. Really like that special edition black and white robot graffiti one. Yeah. Um, I I don't know. I'm worried that I would mess it up. I really am, but I'm probably going to try for the sake of a video at some point. I also really like red, and there's one that I've seen floating around that's kind of Animal Crossing green. I kind of like that as well. Um, you're saying right after I got mine, so a couple weeks ago, you put your order in. Did you put that order in specifically through Steam, like you're in the queue now for after Q3 or something? Or yeah, you're going to be waiting a while, I would say. You wanted to wait for some reviews. Yeah, you know what? I don't know why I own this right now. Like, I am not an early adopter ever. Uh, I saw this thing come up and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. You know, the day or 2 days before it launched when they announced it, and they're like, "This thing's coming out. It's going to be super cool." Everybody was talking about it. Spawn Wave was making videos about it and stuff, and I was just like, "I need to own this." And I pre-ordered it. Like I made sure that I was there the second things went live, and Steam Store was crashing and crashing and crashing, and I had to put my order through probably 20 or 30 times, and it took me about 7 minutes to get my order actually through. But this is not like me at all. I'm not an early adopter. I'm not adventurous when it comes to tech. I usually like to wait for things to mature. Um, you know, uh, even with the PS5, if you go back far enough on my channel, you can see before the release of the PS5, I made a video saying PS5, I'm just not that into you, because all of the promotion and everything that was coming out about the PS5 previous to its launch, I guess that was October of 2020, something like that. Um, the PS5 didn't really excite me because I'm not an early adopter, and I'm like, there's not going to be that much software for it, and it doesn't really, all the problems they were having with not having hard drives available to upgrade, and things like that. So I actually just got a PS5 about 4 months ago. Well into the PS5's life, and I know people are still having troubles getting a PS5, but now I love the PS5. I think it's a really great system. I think it's polished. They've got everything out there that they need to have in terms of information for upgrading SSDs and stuff, and it's pretty easy to upgrade the SSDs in the PS5 too. Kudos to them for designing that pretty well. Apple guy says he is normally an early adopter, but Steam has a history. Yeah, Steam has a history of failing with hardware. I think the Steam Deck is and is going to be a success. I don't know why I'm out of focus here all the time, but probably this microphone being in the foreground. But I think the Steam Deck's a success. I think it's got a lot of buzz around it, a lot of excitement around it. I think people are pretty interested in what this device has to offer. Sean says the only hardware you really jumped super hard into was the PSVR. I know, and you love that thing, Sean. I have never played with the PSVR, but I did have an Oculus Go. I think VR is pretty cool in general, and I think I will probably be one of the day one early adopters for the PSVR 2 because I have a PS5. I don't really feel like buying the old PSVR at this point and trying to rig up all the sensors and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I want to probably get the PSVR 2 when it launches, probably this holiday if everything goes well. It's funny. People are losing their minds still about not being able to find a PS5. I didn't have much trouble finding a PS5. Honestly, if I had to go another year without it, I wouldn't have been missing much because most of what I'm playing on the PS5 are PS4 games that look a little nicer. Um, it does make a PS5 with a 4K TV does make your PS4 games look nicer than you remember them. But as far as PS5 games, I haven't really played much. I played Ratchet and Clank, um, some of it, not all of it, but I played a couple PS5 games. But even the PS5 games that I have played are basically just ports of PS4 games. Like I have the PS5 version of Immortals: Phoenix Rising. How much better does that look than the PS4 version? Is there even a difference, or is it just a label on a disc? I don't really know. But yeah, PSVR only needs a camera and a wire bundle and whatever. It would not work on my PS5 because the way I have things set up, I don't think the cables would be long enough. I don't even know where I would put the camera. I don't really have the room to even stand up and move around too much in this room. Like, I'd have to be pretty much stationary. This is a pretty small room. You can see my couch behind me here. It's maybe 2 feet behind my chair here, maybe just over 4 feet from the edge of my desk. So I don't really have a whole lot of room to play VR. But going back to the Steam Deck, some of the games I want to talk about, some of the games that I've got on here. Yesterday, Happy Console Gamer came out with a video, no, 2 days ago, came out with a video talking about a game that he completely missed out on called The Hunt Down. And he showed some footage of this thing, and he was talking about how excited he was to play this game. And he got me excited because I'm a sucker for, I'm a sucker for those kind of beat 'em up games like Streets of Rage 4. Absolutely love Streets of Rage 4. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. And I love those kind of run and gun games like Contra and Metal Slug. And this is kind of along those alleys, but extremely well done. I played it for quite a while last night, beat the first major boss, and that was tough. Like, this game is kind of hard. It's called The Hunt Down. And but man, is it good. The music is fantastic. The graphics are gorgeous. Like, it's pixel art, but it's like the nicest, most perfect, like Terminator, RoboCop, Total Recall looking, sort of cyberpunk 80s. Like, oh, it's just so great looking. The music is fantastic. The combat is spot on. So I picked that up, and he also recommended Panzer Paladin, which is a similar style of game, but with more of a speed racer anime sort of aesthetic to it. Excuse me. And I haven't checked that out yet, but I want to. And then Dying Light Complete Edition, I picked up for like $13. I haven't gotten into that yet either. I played it on the Switch. I thought it was a fantastic port on the Switch, but I think it's going to look a lot better on the Steam Deck. Probably run at 60 frames a second instead of 30 on the Switch. Some of the other games I've picked up recently, some of the ones I've tested. What games have I tested that I had problems with? Uh, Islanders. Islanders is a little indie game that was announced last summer, where it's kind of a free form building management sim. You build a little town, build up a town on an island, and these islands are kind of procedurally generated, and you can go from island to island and build more and more little settlements and that sort of thing. It has a really interesting level up mechanic where everything you do gives you points, and as you build points in your account or whatever, you unlock more stuff to do, and you get more points based on how you logically arrange things. So if you put a power station close to the water, it's going to give you more points than if you put it somewhere else or whatever, if it's like a water generating station, or if you put a windmill, let's say, on the top of a hill, it's going to get more points than if you put it down low somewhere. And so it's really interesting mechanics, a nice kind of strategy to it. but it doesn't run. It says it's playable, and it is playable. It, like, as far as the graphics go and the performance go, it's fine, but the control schemes are a mess. I had to actually just keep going back and forth into the tutorial because the tutorial was announcing the controls as you go. Okay, here's how you rotate the camera. Press Q and T or something to rotate the camera, and then I would have to exit out of the game and, create a keybind for like the back control buttons here so that I could rotate the camera with this, because it was just not optimized and there was no community control scheme that I could download or anything. So I had to do quite a bit of work to set up keybinds so that the game was playable. But now it does work, and you have to be aware of that. There's a certain amount of user input that is required for some of these games that some people, like even Steam, says the game is not playable, but it is. You just have to mess around with it a little bit, and you might have to go out to the internet and do a little bit of research. But chances are someone has done the legwork for you already. Someone has figured out how to make this work, and you're just going to have to follow someone else's lead. I'm starting to think we're running up towards the top of the hour here. Is there anything else that anybody wanted to talk about before I take off? I was going to talk a little bit about the Switch and comparing the Steam Deck and the Switch as well. Sean says, if I wasn't married already, you would marry the PSVR. I will be sad when you can't immediately get the PSVR 2. Camera goes on the TV. That would suck for games where you need to swing your arms around. Yeah, I'm very limited in this space. I could set something up in the studio where I have a lot more space, but my PS5 is in here with my 4K TV, and so I'm not likely to move the PS5. But in general, I don't really like VR games that require me to stand up anyway. Like, I like VR games where I can just sit down and look around and use the controllers to move around. But Jacob says things you want to talk about. Your player 2 says, have a good night and congrats on the 1K. Thank you, sir. Switch emulation on the Steam Deck and Android running on the Steam Deck. Okay, I don't know anything about Android running on the Steam Deck, so I can't answer that question. Switch emulation is surprisingly good, and you can actually get, there's a couple different emulators. The Yuzu emulator is really popular, but there's actually a better one. I forget what it's called, that actually runs and performs better. I don't really condone emulating current systems personally, but it is possible, and you can get better frame rates and better performance out of a lot of Steam games. I've seen things like Metroid Dread running on the Steam Deck through the Yuzu emulator, and it runs great, and it looks great, and it sounds great. We haven't really talked about the speakers on this thing, but the forward-facing speakers on this thing have like a spatial audio sort of thing. They are really good quality speakers. The volume is nice. It's more than you would need. But yeah, as far as Switch emulators, they're absolutely, you can do it, man. Like, if that's your thing, it's pretty easy to set up. You just need to sideload the Yuzu emulator, or a number of different emulators that run. And I personally won't do it, and I won't create content on that because Nintendo is not friendly to people that try to make content around hacking or piracy or anything like that of their content. It's a little bit different when you're talking about emulating a Game Boy game or an NES game or something. They don't really seem to care all that much. But when you start talking about emulating their current bread and butter, the Nintendo Switch, they're going to come down on you. So I'm not going to do it for my channel. And I don't really have any interest in doing it because I have a Switch, OLED, the nicer Switch. I keep going out of focus here. I don't know why. I have a Switch. I love my Switch, and I don't really see the need to emulate. Know what is going on here. So, older systems, yeah, absolutely. I will be emulating some GameCube and some PS2 and maybe a little bit of PS3. Why the hell am I out of focus here? What is going on? That's better. There we go. So, yeah, you see my Skyward Sword poster back there. Like, I absolutely love uh, playing Skyward Sword on the Switch, and I'm kind of curious how a game like that would respond to the better performance of the Steam Deck, but I don't feel like it is worth it right now. Even though I own the game, and you could make some gray market excuses about, I own the game, so I should be able to play it on a different piece of hardware or something. I just don't want to go down that road. So, Apple Guy says, congrats on 1K. Next milestone, 10K. Yeah, I haven't really set a new goal as of yet. I'm just sort of the last couple of Steam Deck videos that I've done have been more popular than most content on my channel. So I've really been focusing on the Steam Deck, and things have been, starting to move in the right direction. I need to go back to some other content types as well, though, because I have some other things I need to say. So we need to get back to the podcast here. We're taking a break right now. We're going to redesign the podcast a little bit to make it a little bit more fun and interactive. Uh, I'm still trying to figure out how to overcome the internet issues that I have here at my house. How is the stream, by the way? Curiosity. Are we coming through clear? Is it loading, buffering, anything like that? Because I'm curious about actually doing our podcast live streamed here, and whether that would work or not. And I don't know whether you get too many things in the in the process between Apple, sorry, not Apple, but oh, the focusing looks so much better. Yeah. I don't know why this webcam keeps going out of focus. I think it has something to do with this microphone here being in the foreground, and it keeps trying to focus on the microphone. But yeah, you're saying it's been decent, actually. It's not buffering too much. Yeah, I really wonder if we could do the podcast live, because that would save me so much problems, and it would also give us the opportunity to interact with the community while we're live, which is really what I want to do. And that's kind of why we're on hiatus right now, because I'm trying to figure out a way whether I can do the podcast at somebody else's house or something, because my internet is kind of poor, or whether I can get my internet upgraded in the next month or so. Just really would like to do the podcast live. So we have kind of been on hiatus for the last week or two, but we will get back to that pretty soon. I know I miss you guys. I miss chatting with Pori and Sean and Kaz is on an adventure right now. He's heading across the country via car, about a 40-hour drive from southern Ontario to northern Alberta to Edmonton for a job. So I'm going to miss him. He's going to be gone for the summer, and but he will be joining the podcast once we come back again from Edmonton, just as a way to keep connected with us and stuff. So we will see Kaz again as well. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap up this stream. It's been an hour. I'm going to lose my voice, and thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. It's been a blast. I really appreciate your support, because streaming to nobody is not very much fun. And so thanks, guys, for being pals. And we'll see you the next time I hit a milestone. I don't really stream very much, but I might start doing it more if this internet is working a little bit better. Thanks so much, guys. I love you. We'll see you soon.